Since the month of June is now upon us, we're less than a month away from free agency kicking off on July 1st. And if you know anything about the NHL offseason, that's when the trades also pick up. Therefore, I decided to go over some of the biggest names that have been in the rumor mill as of late. In this video, we'll be touching on multiple players that could be traded, things like their stats, contracts, and where they could end up. And with that, here are 3 NHL players that could be traded sooner rather than later. It really doesn't seem like that long ago that the Vancouver Canucks moved their 14th captain to Long Island. And in that trade was a first-round pick that was ultimately used, along with other picks, to acquire Filip Hronek. Hronek, who did initially come from Detroit, was a proven top-pairing defenseman who was in the prime of his career. Therefore, this one was a head-scratcher coming from GM Steve Yzerman at the time. Even still, Vancouver had no problem fully embracing Hronek's capabilities and eventually slotting him right next to Captain Quinn Hughes. Even though he's only 6 feet and 190 pounds, Hronek can easily play aggressively when needed, and had over 100 hits logged for last season. As I mentioned, he made his living alongside Quinn Hughes, where he recorded an impressive 48 points in 81 games played. The Canucks definitely benefited as a whole from his success, as they finished top in their division. Unfortunately though, many are now wondering if the defenseman has priced himself out of BC. Back in late March, Sportsnet's own Luke Fox revealed that Hronek and his representation reportedly rejected an offer that GM Patrik Laine had given. As a defenseman who was coming off of a career year, was offered an 8-year extension with a $6.5 million price tag. While this would be a pay raise considering he's making $4.4 million a season, Hronek knows he's worth more considering. Reason being, if you take a look around the league, for example, there's guys such as Devin Toews who are bringing home more bacon with similar production. Toews, who notched 50 points in his contract year of 2022-23, ended up securing an extension that's valued at $7.25 million a season. Due to this fact, NHL insiders have been speculating about the possibility of Hronek being moved. One logical destination for the former Red Wing would be the Carolina Hurricanes. Reason being, firstly, there's conveniently Marty Necas, who has asked to be moved. And secondly, NHL insider Elliotte Friedman reminded the hockey world of the previous interest that Alvin had in Necas when the Canucks were unsure of Elias Pettersson's fate. The only real snag that Alvin could run into is the fact that Hronek struggled immensely in the postseason, as he was only able to notch 2 points throughout 13 games played. But considering that Brady Shea and Brett Pesce's futures are unknown at this point, Canes may overlook this fact if the return is sufficient to find an adequate replacement. I think it's pretty fair to say that last season was an absolute shit show in Columbus. Before the campaign even kicked off, the Jackets had the Mike Babcock incident that gave the franchise some unwanted scrutiny. Pavel Vincent was brought in as his replacement and made so many decisions that left spectators scratching their heads with skepticism. And then there was the fact that the team as a whole was in disarray on ice. For starters, despite having Johnny Gaudreau and Patrik Laine leading the charge, the Jackets finished second from the bottom in power play percentage. They also finished dead last in the Metro Division and 29th league-wide. Therefore, it's understandable that newly appointed GM Don Waddell would want to get to work ASAP in order to retool the roster. Considering that CBJ already has young offensive talent such as Adam Fantilli and Cole Sillinger, Waddell may want to see what he can get for an older player like Patrik Laine. I wanted to bring this up because as I was looking for Laine on the Jackets roster, I found it pretty interesting that he wasn't even there. Anyways, the Finnish forward didn't exactly get off on the right foot with his new head coach. Vincent, who had the puzzling decision to bench Laine last November, didn't get the reaction he wanted. Instead, Laine told reporters that it was the most embarrassing thing to ever happen to him, and went on to notch 4 points in his last 8 games he played before injury. One team that's been linked to Laine has been the Montreal Canadiens. Reason being, they have the cap space to absorb Laine's 8.7 cap hit, and a GM that has a track record of bringing in a young player every offseason to Quebec. The 26-year-old not only possesses his lethal shot, but also size, considering that he's 6'5" and over 200 pounds. While yes, he did have a rough go of it last campaign, considering that it was probably more circumstantial than anything, Laine would be a useful piece for the Habs up front. Looking back, it wasn't that long ago that he was able to record close to a point per game with 52 in 55 games played, with 22 of those being goals. The only hurdle that GM Kent Hughes could run into is the fact that Laine does have a 12-team no-trade list. I suppose we'll find out this summer if Montreal is one of those teams that he listed. Even before the Toronto Maple Leafs ultimately fell to the Boston Bruins, there were already rumors heating up involving Mitch Marner. Reason being, everyone knows that the formula that the Leafs have been going to battle with every postseason hasn't been cutting it. While yes, the most sense would be to shed cap space by trading John Tavares, the captain wouldn't attract many suitors. Therefore, insiders have shifted their focus to Marner because he would have the most value on the trade market. Now obviously there's a full no move clause in place on Marner's deal, therefore it's important to note that he has full control over his fate. Despite this, for GM Bradshaw Living, it's going to be crucial for him to free up some cap space considering that the core four are going to be accounting for over half of the $87 million of it next season. Marner, who is an extremely skilled playmaker, is efficient on the PK, would be a great addition to any team, really, that could afford him. At 27 years of age, Marner has been relatively consistent offensively and has notched 90 or more points on 3 different occasions. While there's been a lot of teams linked to Marner, including Pittsburgh and Detroit, I thought it'd be interesting to focus on a Western team that's been linked to Marner. Insider Dennis Bernstein from thefourthperiod.com recently divulged his thoughts on where Marner could end up, with Vegas being the most likely destination. Given that Vegas is known for boldly going after high-profile players, I wouldn't put it past GM Kelly McCrimmon. Most players who are propositioned with the potential of playing in an exciting city with great tax benefit can't say no. The Athletic published an article proposing some mock trades involving the forward. An interesting proposal that stands out is Shea Theodore and William Karlsson for Marner. Knowing that the Knights have Noah Hannafin on the back end, they could afford to part with Theodore if they wanted to. Theodore, who is a pending UFA, sports a $5.2 million AAV. As for Karlsson, he's earning similar figures, as he's signed at $5.9 million a season until 2027. In conclusion, this won't be the last of the trade talk you'll hear from me, as we edge closer to July 1st. Now, I'd like to take this time to thank my amazing patrons who have been supporting me along my YouTube journey. Hunter B, Dom M, Jonathan H, Patrick K, Thosha G, and Ron Z. Thank you for all of your support. If you'd like to become a patron and receive some really cool perks, head on over to my Patreon for more information. Instead of getting a $5 coffee per month, you could be privileged to knowing my video topics and also viewing the first minute or so of each video before anyone else. Simply click the link below to learn more about the plans that I have to offer. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.